Hey, Mike. It says we're
Hey,
live.
Jake. Well, that must
Hey,
be right. Computers are always right.
computers are always right. Hey, we'll get to cyber news in a minute, but first, moment of remembrance for Fry's Electronics.
Yeah, I was just reading that story myself, and I fondly remember the one in Manhattan Beach, California, that was the Polynesian fries, and the one in Canoga Park that was the Alice in Wonderland fries, and the best one was the one in Burbank, which was the science fiction movie fries with a flying saucer crashed into the facade of the building. It was awesome. Been there many times, but Amazon. So,
We'll get to what killed Fry's in a second, but
what
it's
killed
funny.
fries?
But I was so I was living in San Jose, and the Fry's was in Campbell, California, and it was
Mm.
this ancient Egyptian theme. And the most amazing thing about it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, like Fry's is where you went to meet people,
Really?
which is funny. I guess the whole Silicon Valley thing. I wasn't working in technology then, but so I don't know that anybody wanted to meet me. But yeah, that's what Fry's was. Fry's was the place to go and well, meet people.
It was your roller skating rink, I guess. Your I don't know, whatever your bowling alley. I don't know.
uh, yeah, that's it. It was my roller skating rink. Wow, Mike. So in case
That's
people
so
don't
pathetic.
in case people don't know this, Mike is older than me. No. Anyway, so roller
I
skating
remember
rink.
roller skates.
Four wheels in line or two on each side?
Oh, always two on each side. That inline stuff, that's for kids. Sorry. I almost broke both my ankles trying that once.
On Venice Beach, yeah. All right.
Yep.
So hey, let's we're gonna do some cyber news. How's the week going, Mike?
Well, it's crazy in this business because of all the cybering going on. And, to complicate things, right now we're closing in on the last parts of our SOC 2 audit, right? SSAE 18, that we started doing voluntarily about 4 years ago so that we could, we have to demonstrate our security and make our business partners feel good about our data handling, but dang, that's a lot of work.
I mean, this whole show your papers. It's a differentiator. The
Hmm.
folks who there's one of our customers I wrote a case study on. They had so many customers. The company had so many customers asking them to show their papers
Hmm.
that they came to us and are like, hey, help with the papers. It's a
Yeah.
it's a big thing.
Yeah. Well, this is one of those things that I want to chat about in that office hours thing that you're setting up to further encumber me with marketing responsibilities.
Yeah. Actually, I know that you're blaming me for this, and that's fine. But as folks know, Mike has sent out the daily blast, an email that comes out at 5:15 or 8:15 in the morning, depending on where you're on the country. And some of the folks who get it are like, "Hey, I have questions about this or questions about that." And so Mike's going to do, whether he likes it or not, Mike's going to do office hours, and we'll come up with a date and time, and people can ask questions of Mike about the news or about budgeting or any other questions they
We
have,
can, we can trade secrets.
or or roller skating, right?
No.
I actually hear the other Mike is better at roller skating than you, Mike Simon, our CTO. He's apparently excellent at roller skating.
Really? Wow, my ego is so crushed. I don't know how I'm going to recover from that.
Yeah, he can even skate backwards. Yep.
I've never been able to do that.
All right. So let's get to it. What's the news of the week? News of the world. What do you got, man?
Okay. So where do we start? Locally. Let's start locally. The thing that happened in Seattle. Um, Payment processing firm got hacked, and there are quite a few government organizations affected. So I won't go down the list. If it's you, it's you. Um, but there may be a knock-on effect coming later if cardholder data actually got disclosed. Meaning that government organizations could get beaten up by constituents if they start having financial problems from this. And the nuance here is, the payment card industry data security standard attaches you to a merchant number. and they don't care who is at fault. If the merchant number is affected by this, it goes back to you. That's why when I was at the city, we ended up having to own all of the parking meter transactions, even though separate network, that company does its own PCI compliance, but all the money from that went to our merchant number. We're responsible. So this could get weirder than people think. Yes, there is a payment processor that has been, knocked down, and a lot of governments were using it, but there's a shoe still to drop. Also, disturbingly, and this is kind of public sector too, this thing called TDOS, telephony denial of service, seems to be back. The way this works is it's a flood of spoofed VoIP calls, right? I can fake the number I'm coming from, and unfortunately, these are now aimed at PSAPs, public safety answering points, which as 911. So the boldness and callousness of these hooligans, and notice I didn't say actors, that was for you, Jake.
Yes, we are replacing threat actors with hooligans or ne'er-do-wells,
miscreants.
Evildoers. Yes.
So, hospitals are bad enough, but messing with law enforcement and public safety is pretty assuredly going to cause loss of life. So, again, organizations that provide services that are super critical, you're getting targeted because you're so critical and can't stand downtime. What else? Virginia passing the next state privacy law using GDPR and CCPA as a model, but making some adjustments. So the do not track me button is going to be everywhere soon. And when the private sector screams loudly enough about not being able to do the creepy tracking for marketing purposes anymore, then we'll get a federal law. Until then, these laws are going to pop up in states all over the place.
And that's great because we need 50 different laws. That's how things get done.
Yeah,
you can see it's working so well with vaccine rollout
and with state data breach reporting, right?
Going great. Nothing to see here.
Nothing to see here. Sequoia Capital got hacked. The institutional investment firm. Someone gave up a password. Bad guys walked right in. Which reminds me, we're doing security awareness training tomorrow, right? Another attempt to get people to stop giving away their damn passwords.
We are, and we've had so many people go through that security awareness training. It feels awesome to have helped people not plug in a USB, not click on a stupid email, and people keep emailing us new phishing emails. I'm going to put two things in the chat here. One is a link to security awareness training if people want to go, and the other is you can email if you have really interesting phishing emails. Somebody sent me a good one yesterday. Send them over to me, and I'll make Mike put them in the training.
Yeah, I've already looking at a few interesting submissions that I'll patch in sometime today and freshen up that deck. So not so locally, we indicted some North Koreans for the WannaCry global event and, calling them out as the world's biggest bank robbers, which is true.
See, we didn't call them threat actors. We had something better.
Bank robbers, right. If we never will, but if we ever catch or extradite them, they're going to be tried for billions in losses. And, this is more of a political thing than it is actually a law enforcement thing. But at least our ability to identify individuals seems to be pretty good. And I think that's the real take home from there is, we can find your name, person that did this. So that's good. I got to loop back on Excellion again too, right? So the latest, the victim list is continuing to pile up, okay? And the latest is the airplane manufacturer Bombardier, right? And apparently there have been blueprints, actually a CAD drawing, because blueprints are kind of 20th century, of a surveillance aircraft.
Like roller skates.
With 2 and 2 wheels. So what was the plane called? Global Eye, which does not sound like creepy branding at all. They could have done a better job with that. So this is the Klopp ransomware gang doing this double extortion thing. And what they poached was, basically the plans to these aircraft. And this particular one is a surveillance aircraft. So what else do they have? And also, before I leave this topic, there seems to be still some confusion around when Accellion announced the vulnerability in their older product and when the patch was released. And what I have heard and read, seen reported, was there was 8 days between the announcement and the release of the patch. If that's true, and they didn't release the information in the patch at the same time, I would call that cyber malpractice. And I chatted with the Associated Press. They're asking some hard questions around the timing there, and this could end badly for Accellion.
Yeah, I mean that's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean almost as bad as naming that plane Global Eye. They should have just
Yeah,
named it Eye of Sauron. But
yeah,
hey,
exactly.
on the Accellion attack, it's against any organization that still used the older product, regardless of industry, including here in Washington State.
Yeah.
There was a story in the news blast this week about the health sector. But then it went down the list of sectors that get the most cyber attacks. That was fascinating. Who's up? Who's down?
Yeah, it's so not only that, but the juxtaposition of that story and a couple others. So the first one I saw was something about healthcare breaches being halved in January. So 32 breaches, unauthorized disclosure of protected records across 18 states, with Florida being the state most affected, which is a little karmic. Still more than one a day, but December 2020 was 32. And the average over last year was 38 a month. So I think I got that wrong. I think it was 32 across 18 states. I don't think it was that many because it is a half, but it was a big drop. But then the list of industries or sectors most victimized that you just brought up is pretty interesting. If you look at the data, there's a table in the article. It's the title of the article has nothing to do with the table. It's about COVID pandemic causing a spike in cyber attacks against hospitals and basically the health sector, medical companies. The sectors that are going up on the victim list are in manufacturing, energy, and healthcare. So recent data from January may not have been used in tabulating healthcare, but manufacturing keeps hitting the radar. Finance continues to be number one. Education is number 10. I thought all that was really fascinating, especially manufacturing. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of manufacturing has gone to automation, right? Robots work through a pandemic. So that makes them easier to attack. And if your manufacturing line goes down, you're going to know pretty well how much money you're losing per minute, and they're going to pay, right?
So is this about attackers looking for easier marks or looking for the industries that that are doing better in the pandemic? I mean, retail was down, media was down, media and retail have been hit really hard financially. So are the criminals smart enough to know that, or are they just going after the easy pickings?
That's a really good question. My theory is that they are looking for organizations that have certain sets of attributes, right, as to their criticality and how the financial losses will pile up quickly if they are disrupted, or if how their services are so critical that loss of life may be in scope and we got to hurry up and get this back together. So it's not so much about how much money you made during the pandemic. It's about your willingness to pay based on the criticality of what you do or the financial loss you're going to incur when you're disrupted. That's really, I think, the way that they're doing the targeting. That was a good question. But then there's this one other story about some dark web analysis that shows just how popular and valuable health records are. Demand for these has spiked. So put those together. Records theft from the health sector has dropped. Health has dropped on the most targeted list, but demand for those records is high because of their value in financial fraud. Not many of those health records are used to get health services by impersonation. It's about collection of information in health records that facilitates financial fraud, business email compromise, bait for extortion, things like that. That's why those are so valuable. I still harbor this suspicion that a lot of those records are being bought writ large by cutouts that work for insurance companies, but that's just my crazy theory.
Well, we're going to ignore your crazy theory for a second. And health and disclosure of health records is up year to year and is hugely
Year to
up
year is, yeah.
and is hugely up from the first half of 2020. Second half in the chat, I put our breach report that Drex DeFord and Vivian worked on. So folks can see it there. So that just means that if breaches there are up, but they're down on the list, that
I
just
know.
means like things are crazy.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's conflicting information around this. That was kind of my point. And, you don't know which part of this to believe, and you kind of believe what you want. It's getting better. It's getting worse.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anybody says it's getting better. But anyway, whatever.
No, nobody says it's getting better.
But, Congress is now getting involved. Earlier, we talked about laws. Jonathan in the chat here says, more laws, everybody, laws. So, but Congress is taking the issue up in a number of ways. Yeah. Do you think the grants for state and local government for cybersecurity are going to pass? And will they make any difference?
I'm not sure. Even if it does, there's a lot of this going on in Congress, right? Always. But even if it does pass, $400 million has been set aside for state and local government for security controls. That's not that much. And the way grants are structured, they don't pay for employees, they don't pay for managed services, they typically pay for capital costs. So you can buy a thing. But on the other hand, they're starting to get really vocal and serious about reporting incidents faster. There was I think it was a Senate hearing. Brad Smith from Microsoft was there, a bunch of other tech company execs. And there was a lot of agreement that incident reporting should occur nearly immediately. The hearing was about the SolarWinds incident, and by the way, everybody is saying there will be continuing effects from this for years. Rooting out the Russians that are now embedded in government and business everywhere is not done overnight. So the logic is that the faster we let everyone know what's happening, the faster other targets can avoid being victimized. So, I predict pushback on this.
Wait, why?
Well, for one reason, there's the law is that if there's an ongoing investigation, you don't need to say anything. You should be sure of your facts before you make a statement, because there can be liability involved in saying too much too soon or not being accurate in what you report. And so all these are going to be brought up as, reasons why this is not a good idea. But I think with this whole narrative that we've been exposed to over the last 10 years of information sharing, and the fact that CISA did exactly that prior to the election, they made sure everybody knew what was going on everywhere so everybody could protect themselves if they saw an event over there. That worked out pretty well. So, I think this probably is going to be federal law sometime soon. If you have events of a certain taxonomic description, you have to tell everybody right away.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. Besides anything else. So when I worked in a newsroom, one of the tenets is that you report the best available truth. And sometimes the truth changes and evolves as you get more facts, but you got to report immediately what's going on, because if you just don't report, then nobody will know what's going on. Mm-hmm. It's like, before you report on a car crash that's blocking the freeway, you have to know all of the facts of the car crash and what caused it. So I'm not going to report about the freeway being closed for hours. Like, what a ridiculous idea. Same thing here. Yeah. Like, as soon as you report it, right?
Well, there's a business decision to be made there. It's not that straightforward. There are lots of reasons why you want to hold information closely until you get to the bottom of something, to avoid disclosing the fact that law enforcement may be trying to investigate something that's ongoing. Sure. And, trying to identify bad guys. You don't want to tip them off. Yeah, so there are reasons to not say anything. But the whole information sharing as fast as possible, if we can crack the code on that, that's a good thing.
So is it going to be, is this going to be a bill? Is this going to go through Congress?
I don't know. Congress has a lot of priorities, but the list of fans that I saw is bipartisan. So we'll see. That would make one in a row. So good.
Hey, before we started, I looked at your calendar today. You're kind of busy. Do you need to go?
The answer is always yes.
Well, no, you can't. You're stuck here live with me. What else do you want to talk about?
Oh, there's a marketing thing we should probably talk
Oh,
about.
good. What's the
Yeah.
marketing
Oh,
thing?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's marketing. It's a don't let this happen to you marketing. Um, two of the top 5 virtual event platforms, like I would consider this thing to be a virtual event platform, are vulnerable to disclosure of personal and corporate data, including, and this wasn't well defined, direct access to databases and possible remote code execution. The one that was named vFares, I've never heard of it before, but that platform is used by Ford, T-Mobile, and other familiar corporate names. So if you use that platform for your marketing events, you might want to get some more information on this and find out about a patch or the configuration changes to make.
And, I don't think I want to throw any stones or anything, but then they sent out a joint news release about a new integration with Zoom this morning. So there's that. Thanks for watching out for marketing, though. So kind. So
Yeah,
kind.
it's self-preservation is what it is.
All right. So folks who watch us see that we do a kicker at the end. Kicker is the story at the end of a newscast that makes you smile. Mike, you generally fail at making people smile, but can you do it this week?
It's not my way. The story this week has to be about spotsrampage.com. So a group, and I can't remember the name of the group, but it's pretty funny, like mischief something. They took one of the Boston Dynamics robotic dog-like things, which is of course named Spot, and attached a paintball gun to it, and is allowing visitors to its site to remotely control the robot and the weapon for 2 minutes at a time. Users are picked randomly or on the site. You got to somehow identify yourself, and then randomly you're given the controls to shoot up the room, which sounds like a blast. But robotic warfare is pretty dystopian, and it is coming. Boston Dynamics, for their part, pretty irritated about this because it misrepresents their robotic pooch. I guess is what I think it's good. It gets us to think about how robotic drones today are used to wage war on the other side of the world from a joystick, and how that capability has become commoditized. Armed drones are probably going to be an issue soon that we have to deal with.
I feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger should chime in.
Armed drones.
Yeah.
It's not a tumor.
But it is Skynet.
It is Skynet.
It is Skynet. Well,
we're getting towards Skynet. I'm waiting for the company that has the moxie to name itself Skynet. That's what Starlink should have been.
I just think, in this discussion, you've talked about roller skating. You've used the word moxie. Any other aged things you want to?
No.
No. Any robot dogs? Anything like that?
No more robot dogs.
All right, everybody. Well, have a great Thursday, Mike. You should probably go to all those meetings on your calendar that you're missing. Oh, yeah. And just a reminder, if you want to, Mike's going to obviously put it in his blast, but if you want to know more about the Mike's office hours, or you want us to talk about a specific thing in that Mike's office hours when we kick it up, shoot me an email at jake@ci.security. And if you think it's an absolutely terrible idea, you can tell me that too, but we're probably still going to do it. All right, everybody. Have a good one. Goodbye.
Bye. Spotsrampage.com. See you next week.